the idea of, all right, this is something I could potentially be the best in the world at is what really kept me going. You make the decision, all right, I'm committing to this Olympic cycle to be Olympic champion. We had a very centralized program in Pretoria. There's a leaderboard. We called it a prognostic sheet where every boat class was compared. You had to be performing under 3% from the leader, meant you kind of at risk of being cut off. So it was ruthless, it was brutal. Beginning of 2020, I was selected. Through that, I had 2 stress fractures. I had the craziest tendonitis in my forearm and hamstrings, but you just kept quiet. Otherwise, you speak up and you spend time out the boat, someone else is going to come in and capitalize on that opportunity and take your place. All the World Champs qualification stuff was done, and there's one final chance to qualify. They call it the Regatta of Death. Luckily, we managed to win that regatta. Then the very next week after that even, got silver at the World Cup. Had a crazy good training camp up in Lesotho just before leaving for Toyama. We were sitting all in a room going, yeah, we toast here, like what do we do? I was completely done. And so I've always thought that rowing is probably the most transferable sport to HYROX. I'm very much on the fringes of the Elite 15 side, so Cape Town will claim back those points and put me, I think, 16th. The training is not what makes you faster or better or stronger. It tells your body it's not good enough, so when you go and recover, your body goes, okay, that sucked, I need to be better, so next time it's not as sucky. But if I can be punching 21 to 24 hours a week, like week in, week out, that's, I think, is the gold standard. 80% of your program is going to be like that really, really easy stuff. And the only thing you're fighting with is boredom and your ego.
Welcome back to AFCO, guys. Today we're joined by not just an amazing HYROX athlete, but also actually former Olympic rower, if I'm not mistaken.
It's the one.
Carl Schoonbee. Thanks for being on the pod today.
Yeah, no worries, guys. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's great. We like big fans of you and everything you're doing in HYROX and rowing, and getting to the Olympics is like one thing, and now you transferred into another sport.
Yeah.
And can you give us a little bit of background on how you got into just sport in general? Give us your athletic background, how that led you into rowing, and then eventually HYROX.
Yeah, so I was always that kid that just did everything. Whatever season it was, I was trying to do all the sports, like tennis, swimming. When they introduced water polo at like my very small primary school, jumped in on that early mornings with that. Was always a decent runner. Hated it though. Still do. Really don't like running. But yeah, played cricket, rugby, hockey, the whole works, and just enjoyed trying things out. Then moved up to high school, and obviously coming from a very small primary school, the array of sports that you have available to you now is just like a whole new world. You obviously didn't have like pole vault, javelin at a smaller primary school. Now I try everything again. Then my parents did a stint of rowing at university. I think my dad tried to take it to a fairly high level, and then very much against their wishes, I, in like grade 9, just went out and tried it, and then it just stuck.
Really?
It was just one of the things, I was like immediately somewhat competent at it. Mm-hmm. So I think that does then also fuel that, oh, this is great kind of thing. And then had a really phenomenal coach as well at school that just immediately was, took us under the wing. I think we had a very talented age group. And then, just stuck that out, like very quickly joined the junior national program. And then their end goal is always the Olympics. So that was always in my sight.
How old were you back then? Like when you
joined grade 9 is
grade 9. So 14. Then the development program starts at under 16 level, and then you start racing at under 19 level. After that, it's like official South African colors. So I did 2 years of that. Then went through the under 23 process. At one stage, I thought about stopping rowing. I had a couple of like entrepreneurial ambitions, and I just thought maybe sport's gone. But I guess once an endurance athlete, you always just come back to it. So I did the under 23 level stuff. And then that naturally feeds into the senior team. So then I moved from Cape Town up to Pretoria, centralised program. And then, I did a full Olympic cycle there. Tokyo was a disappointment, to put it that way. I think we've always had... we've always punched above our weight as a smaller nation in rowing. And I think, especially this heavyweight 4 that we were in, like it was one of the most phenomenal boats that we've had in a long time. And then, just that's how sport goes, hey? Like last 3 weeks before the games, just overcooked it. And very disappointing. So like lined up like a potato. And after 5 years with the postponement of the games, didn't even get to put our best performance out there. So it was like, so then I took a big step back from sport. Still stayed active. I, buggered around in powerlifting for a bit, but the endurance side, I was like, I'm not doing this for a while.
Right.
And then, yeah, couldn't stay out of it. It always comes back, and the HYROX thing popped up. I was still super heavy at the time from the powerlifting stuff, and then did my first race. And then I thought, if I just like committed a little bit to this and lost, a good couple of kilograms, I could be quite good. So then did a shift into the Joburg race in March 2024, and then managed to win that. And I was like, if I just keep going at this, I can, it was on the fringe of elite times already. So
Was that your first race or the second one? The one at Joburg?
my second one, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I think I took off like 7.5 minutes from my Cape Town race that I did a few months before, and it was obviously up at higher altitude in Joburg. So it was a big step, and then for me that was like, all right, this is something I can go for. And then just started stepping on the gas pedal there with that, and
how do you find HYROX coming from a sport that obviously is very repetitive in its motions? Obviously, like rowing, it's like, okay, we're going to put a big stint in here, we're going to pull hard, we're going to go as hard as we can for this distance. Whereas now HYROX is like way more complicated. Do you feel like it's more stimulating for your mind? Are you enjoying it in that way? Or like, talk me through that a little bit.
Yeah, I think the rowing side is very monotonous in terms of how you're going about training. In terms of the physiological approach and the types of sessions you're doing, it's slightly more geared towards like a 6-minute VO2 effort, but all the fundamentals are still the same. So I follow that same sort of blueprint now with the HYROX side.
Right.
But obviously there's all these different stations involved that you need a level of proficiency and conditioning for. So that, adds a whole dimension that is actually more enjoyable. And I find logistically, obviously with rowing, you need a body of water, and often, like, doesn't matter where you are, Cape Town, even in Pretoria where we were based, you still have to drive, a good 30 minutes out, 30 minutes back. So then to get your training requirements in, it's like a lot of wasted time in the day. Whereas now, at least I've got a home gym set up, but even without that, going for your run, you just open up the gate, go for it, get it done. Pop down to the gym, which is not too far, get your weight training in, or, the other station work. So logistically, it's been a lot easier. But yeah, like I said, the blueprint's very much the same, just geared towards, that last 10% of specificity. That's really where things deviate.
Where things deviate, but you're talking about like the cardio conditioning and like that sort of stuff.
Yeah, very, very much the same. I mean, we would spend 2 hours on the bike as our kind of cross training and aerobic base work for the rowing team. I do very much the same thing now. The monotony side, rowing, it's a very technical sport too, because as much as you want to be as strong as possible and this like crazy aerobic and strength athletes, there's a very, very intricate technical aspect to it that you can bleed a lot of force out of it. So you do need to spend a lot of time rowing in a boat and actually bedding down that technique. Whereas at least, HYROX is low skill. You don't need to worry about that. If you can do wall balls somewhat proficiently, you get to that good enough skill level quite easily. Whereas rowing, it takes years to get to that point where you're actually utilizing the full sort of physiological side that you're able to put out.
Do you also feel like that rowing, obviously, like it definitely laid a great foundation for HYROX, but how much do you feel like, because even if you look at some elite 15 racers like Alexander Ronkovic, he comes from swimming, then you have like Tim Vintage, he comes from running. I feel like if you have that nice balance between endurance sport, and I feel like with rowing, it's a cool thing, like you said, you have to have a good VO2 max work, but also at the same time as rowers, you have an insane amount of upper body strength and leg strength as well.
Yeah. So I've always thought that rowing is probably the most transferable sport to HYROX in terms of base level.
That's interesting.
Yeah, fitness and everything. Because you have the mix of strength and then your aerobic foundation. It's just the running proficiency that's something to work on. So that's really been for me the main thing to get going. Yeah. Because from day one coming into HYROX, for me, like the sleds have just been a formality. I've never really like had to worry about them, and I've never had to comprehend that, you actually have to train and have this minimum level of strength to be able to get through the sleds. Even. It's always been about, okay, cool, how can I improve my conditioning to, maintain output longer for higher, it's,
What's your approach to the sled pull? Because everybody's got a different technique, and obviously being a rower, I'm sure you're pulling a lot. So are you pulling with your arms? Are you walking it back? Like, what do you think works best for you?
Yeah, no, it's definitely walking it back.
Walking it back.
I think you're definitely going to spend a lot of chips trying to do kind of any arm over arm pulling.
Right.
I mean, you could get through it, but then you're going to pay for it afterwards.
Right.
So yeah, you still want to do it in the most efficient way possible. So I, still make sure I'm taking the slack out the rope, and then just using your body weight as much as possible, and your hips to get the thing moving, and then just keeping it moving as easy as possible.
Rope management is the
Yeah,
key.
yeah, exactly. 'Cause
That was our biggest hurdle for that. It was just like, okay, make sure the rope
Speak
is-
for yourself. Sorry, what?
No, I mean, I remember trying to help you, and then they were like, "Don't touch the rope. That's your first warning."
Yeah.
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 I was trying to help you, buddy, but it's fine. It's okay.
It's just too nice for HYROX. That's the problem.
I think people also underestimate, like, when you're on that cusp of going too hard or like too soft, a small change in something that upsets your rhythm can throw you off massively. So you fumble over your rope.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden you find yourself gasping like crazy amounts.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be that deep. But when you're on that limit, these kind of things do actually throw a big spanner in the works. So yeah, you need to make sure that rope management and your efficiency is on it.
on it.
If you like now speaking about technique and stations, is there like a station you really enjoy, and is there a station that you really despise?
I think we'd be a bit biased to say my rowing.
Okay, yeah.
makes
Okay, let's take out rowing because
Yeah.
okay, let's say rowing. Yeah,
Obviously rowing.
Stupid question of mine.
Yeah. No, I enjoy the sled push. I think I've only had 2 races where I've really been like, oh, this sucks. One of them was Stockholm recently,
Yeah.
but I think I was just way off the mark. But otherwise, yeah, I've always just got through that fine. And then my very first race, the burpees were honestly horrendous. So it's something that I've just in my training have always spammed and made sure
lot
it's
of
there.
burpees.
And I've actually got to the point where I don't mind it.
Okay,
I don't mind
that's
it.
good.
Yeah.
It's good.
I think
And
burpees is like terrible. Honestly.
when you get on the rower, do you just like flip and destroy it? I can imagine that. That must be so demoralizing for the guys next to you. You just like Olympic row up. You know?
Yeah, the thing is, the rowing doesn't make as much of an impact as I would like it to have. When I first saw HYROX and I saw there's a 1K row in there, I'm just like, I'm going to obliterate everyone here. But, it comes at a time where it's the middle of a race. You need to still be clever with what you're doing.
Right.
And then the way that pacing decreases on the rowing machine for the amount of additional power, it doesn't give you the advantage that you think it does.
Right.
You can easily push a sled, 30 seconds faster for the same kind of effort increase. Whereas a rowing machine, going from a 145 to a 142 is like a big amount of effort, but it's only gaining you 6 seconds over the row.
Right.
So I came into it thinking, all right, I could row probably somewhere between like 135, 138 is like a good pace, right on that threshold level, and be like, okay, cool, I can gain 20 seconds on people. But I think it's far more beneficial down the line to just row 145 to 148 and do almost nothing. Because then you're recovering for a good, 4 minutes of a station. Then everything downstream from that, you're gaining way more than that 20 seconds that you would.
Right.
would have
So
on the row.
it's all about the strategic timing and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I think the advantage for me is being able to do the same effort, the same outputs easier than everyone, like way easier. Because then downstream it helps me with the stuff that's
With other stuff.
when it gets really real.
You also mentioned earlier that like Stockholm, for your personal goal, you felt you were way off, but you also were in Chicago 2024, right?
Yeah.
And that was quite successful, I would say, from an objective perspective.
Yeah, it was good. I think that was the first time went under 60. Yeah, it was.
Wow.
So I was really happy with that. And the progress from there, from Joburg into that, I think it was only 3 months in between it. So like it was really
Quite a quick
really good go.
turnaround there.
Yeah.
How did it feel like race? Like, like in South Africa, especially like in Joburg and Cape Town, because I raced both myself and me coming from Europe, it's, like you're competing only against mainly South Africans. There's not really any other nations participating. While in Europe, obviously you do have like a lot of people flying in for the big events, let's say Berlin or Hamburg. People are flying from all across over Europe.
Yeah.
So how is it now competing against South Africans only, and then being in Chicago and Stockholm, and now basically competing against the best of the world? How did that feel? How was that?
Yeah. I mean, obviously I have a disdain for losing. So
That would be concerning if not.
so I was like, cool, winning in South Africa, then went over to Chicago And then I didn't know anyone at the time. So, I lined up next to, Aaron Tavis, Jack Driscoll, in the exact same
hectic.
sort of heat. And, I'm racing these guys and, I get ahead of them, but then they come back and I'm like, what's going on here? Why are these guys with me or getting ahead of me kind of thing? Super frustrated at like my own standard because I'm like, I should just be winning by miles. But, Jack is now 7th ranked in the world. Aaron's also been a phenomenal hybrid athlete. So, yeah, I did expose, the standard of going into a much bigger pond.
Right.
But also it's, it's good mental calibration to go, okay, cool. Well, that's actually what's out there.
Yeah.
And I think that's also then something that's kind of dominoed down into the South African standard because that's now also rapidly increasing
Right.
after people have had exposure to the
World,
international
yeah.
standard. Yeah.
Okay, jeez. And what do you think those guys, like, did you analyze, okay, this is what they're doing differently to me and this is how I can improve in those areas? Was there anything during the race that you noticed, like, okay, this guy, his, say, burpee technique is, like, it's saving him X amount of time or that you, like, notice, oh, this guy does this well and I need to incorporate that in my training when I go home, anything like that?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily look at competitors' racing profiles.
Right.
I think if something stands out, like, for example, Dylan Scott at the current world champs, actually, a mature race plan where you are finishing a lot stronger than coming through versus just kind of sending it out front and then hoping you hang in there.
Right.
Unless it's that kind of obvious deviation, I don't necessarily look at competitors' race plans. But what I do is, I follow everyone on Instagram. I try and dig up as much as I can out of what they're doing in training, especially, the top guys that are consistently performing, and then trying to see, like, what about what they're doing is maybe a little bit different to what I have and how I can bring that into my own training.
Okay. That's actually, like, when it's coming back to training, one thing that I find very interesting, I would love to know what you think might be the reason for that. Is like, okay, let's take my time, for example, in Joburg. I think I was finishing at 111 or 114. In my age group, I think I came in 6th. So I was actually looking at my time, okay, so if I would run 111 or 114, let's say in Europe somewhere, let's say Berlin, I would have come not 6th in my age group, but I think 200th or 300th.
Yeah.
So there is still, like, quite a big difference when it comes to the competitiveness. Do you think there's a specific reason for that? Yeah.
I wouldn't compare my Joburg time to anything.
Okay.
I think that's like such an outlier just in terms of how much slower that course is. And I think it's something that I'm more easily able to appreciate and understand because a lot of my rowing training was spent up in Pretoria, up in Johannesburg, even higher in Lesotho, and then spending periods of time at sea level in Cape Town training. And the difference in your output is enormous just on the altitude side. So, I think Joburg and I think Mexico City is the other HYROX event. I would, not use those as any kind of comparison to anywhere else at sea level. Yeah. I think majority of my rowing personal bests are just training sessions at the Cape because we've never really done our high performance, physiological tests down here. It's always up in Pretoria. So some training sessions I'd come down here after a high altitude camp and just row out PBs in intervals versus like tapering and focused in effort on these physiological tests up in Pretoria and Joburg.
If you had to put it into a percentage, where would you say, like for, say, rowing? Yeah.
So I'm not sure what the power percentage difference is, but over 2,000 meter race, I think there's 8 to 12 seconds difference, which is very short. I mean, that's like for us under 6 minutes, 8 to 12 seconds is a huge amount. Yeah. Over an hour, it was ridiculous. I think my personal best, we would do a 17-kilometer trial as part of our testing. So that would take you just under an hour. So that was a 1:42 up in Pretoria. But I've done a training session where I've done the full hour at a stroke rate cap at a 1:40, which is 2 seconds per 500 faster. So it's like night and day there.
Right. So you think the problem with Joburg specifically is just that it's too high to get an accurate reading on the times?
Yeah, I think it's as an outlier.
And then what about down here in Cape Town? Are people going faster here in Cape Town? Like,
I feel like they do go faster than Joburg, but still compared to the international stage, I think it's still like slower-ish. Do you think that maybe it's because it's quite new here, or people still don't understand how to properly train for HYROX? What would you say?
Yeah, I think it's getting there. I think HYROX is still taking off here as much as like the events are sold out. The preparation for the races and stuff is still maturing on this side.
Right.
Whereas whenever I go over to Europe, like just the maturity around training, even just with the like everyday participant, is way higher than what I've seen this side.
Right.
But then, yeah, I think there are just naturally courses that are a lot faster. Like I think if you look at Berlin, like that's a huge outlier in terms of the running paces and times there.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're comparing apples to apples, even just across courses, which is why I think it's important that they move to the point system now for the elite side.
Okay.
Right.
So I was just gonna say, like, actually, like, that's actually such a good point. That's the first time I ever heard somebody say that, like, you shouldn't compare courses.
Yeah.
Because, like, in sports like triathlon and stuff, you do get that a lot because, like, different elevations and stuff.
Yeah.
But in HYROX, I think I never thought about it this way, but it is so true. Like,
Yeah.
if I compare courses, it actually, we should stop, I mean, including me, comparing times, because in the end, it only matters then on the bigger stages when the best compete against each other with an equal course.
Yeah.
Do you think are the layouts slightly different to the point where it makes?
I mean, Berlin was at Berlin. You had only one run course, so you didn't have to run loops. It just was like exactly 1K, one loop instead of running like 3 or 2.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I think. Yeah, because then the number of sharp corners also makes a big difference to carrying momentum and your running speed and stuff. Then obviously the obvious one is the sled turf and the sleds, etc. They can vary massively.
Oh, is that
Joburg was terrible. I'm sorry.
Because I Cape Town in July, I pushed that thing so like it was great. I think I went low 2 minutes for that, almost under 2 minutes, I think.
Crazy.
And then that first time they introduced the sleds in Chicago, the new turf, like sitting there, still had a whole length to go, and I look at my watch and I'm like 10 seconds over my goal time for the station. And I was like, what's going on here? And that thing was like I'm pushing it through syrup. So yeah, those kind of variations again just mean you can't compare.
right?
Even if you look in the farmer's carry, like a long out and back double loop or a single loop versus sometimes they have it where you're doing 20, 20, 20, 20, like snaking along, it kills your momentum and all that kind of stuff. So there are variations that stack up and you just can't compare in the end.
And then, what do you think the average HYROX athlete in Europe is doing differently to the average HYROX athlete in South Africa? Like you said, the maturity of training there is just so much higher.
Yeah.
And I've talked to some people about different ways to train for HYROX.
Yeah.
Some swear by do HYROX movements and train that because that's what you do on the day. Others are like, no, just run a lot and do strength training.
Yeah.
And then I think the one that makes most sense to me is like do a good mix of both.
Yeah, I think I think the exposure to like a blueprint that works. Again, there's like 1,000 ways to skin the cat. I often go and subscribe to Anthony Perosini, to the new I think it's Chris Bain's his program. Like I had a bit of a look at that just to see where people are and what they're trying to do. But you look at it, and even though Anthony's program is so different to mine, which is very different to the Bain's method, it's the same fundamentals underneath if you really strip away the specifics of each session on session. And I think then the exposure to coaches that are programming the right foundations, I think it's greater on the European side. I think especially in the UK, where everyone is HYROX mad. I think, they're just the everyday coach that is offering their programming, whether it's a cookie cutter item, it's a little bit more aligned to, the right area where the blueprint should be.
And then I suppose every training program just depends on where you're coming from. Like for you, it wouldn't make sense to spend all your time developing an aerobic base or training like leg press or something like that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't make sense for you to
Prioritize that.
that. It's like, okay, you don't run, you should spend more time running in your program, like that sort of thing. It's hard to just give one program. I feel like it's more standardized in other sports
I think also HYROX is so new, like you said, people are even so like it feels like in Europe it's more matured, but still in Europe, like you don't know what you should do. Like there's guys like Tim Vanish, like their programs are super run heavy. He runs like more than 100 Ks a week, but then you have other people like that do HYROX. But it's just like nobody found the secret sauce because I feel like HYROX is actually the cool thing. It's 8 stations plus running. It's so demanding in a sense that I mean every person has their own strengths and weaknesses, and I think that's why HYROX programs probably need to be super highly individualized.
Right.
100%.
But yeah, also tell us more about your rowing and that journey. Like, how come you stuck with it for so long? What about rowing like gets you like excited?
Yeah.
And talk us through the Olympic journey. How you went from, okay, I'm just doing this at school because I enjoy it, and now you're in the Olympics. Like, take us through that process a little bit as well.
I think, like I said earlier, it was the moment I started the sport, I had a natural level of proficiency in it, especially on the physiological side. Like once I got on the rowing machine, I was able to produce really, really good times. I think just throughout every sort of year at school, I would always break the indoor rowing records, and I think that kind of progress and stimulus keeps you around. Like I enjoyed winning and the idea of being on top. So even though the novelty of being out on the water and this cool sport eventually wears off, the idea of, all right, this is something I could potentially be the best in the world at is what really kept me going. Just, winning national championships or, trying to throughout your school career then feeds into the next step. Like, oh, well, the next big thing is to go and be, junior world champion kind of thing. And you chase that, and then the next step becomes under 23s, and you feed into that, and then, you go through the ups and downs of that whole journey, and then you come out with, a world championship medal, and then you stick with it again. You're like, all right, no, cool. I'm still good enough and cut out for this that maybe one day I could be senior and Olympic world champion.
Right.
And then, you make the decision, all right, I'm committing to this Olympic cycle to be Olympic champion.
It's cool. And was 2024 the first time you tried to qualify for the games?
It was 2020. The Tokyo Games.
The Tokyo Games.
The COVID games.
The COVID Games, yeah.
Tell us about that. Was that a different experience? Obviously, you went to 2024 as well.
No, just Tokyo.
Just Tokyo. Okay.
It was a very different experience, I think, to what anyone had before that. It was obviously a 5-year cycle with the postponements, but it was brutal. I think we had a very centralized program in Pretoria, and every day was kind of, you're exposed. There's a leaderboard. We called it a prognostic sheet, where every boat class was compared based on their world's best time, and like a percentage ranking came out. Jeez. So every day you were compared, and like you had to be performing under 3% from the leader, meant you kind of at risk of being cut off. So it was ruthless. It was brutal. Like your seat would rotate, even on one off day, and someone else is now in and you're not. So you had to make sure you're just arriving and doing what you need to keep your spot. And I think eventually that kind of leads to performing on the world stage sometimes, kind of like an Eastern European weightlifting approach, where throw stuff at the wall, whatever sticks ends up, being really good, but everyone else falls away. So there was a fair churn of athletes. But where was I going with that then?
Who runs that like program? Is there like a South African Federation of Rowing or?
Yeah, so there's generally the head coach then.
Okay.
And then he sets, basically it was one standardized program that everyone would follow in this very sort of centralized item. And then, it came around to 2020, and at this stage only the men's pair had qualified. So out of 12 heavyweight men in the squad, only 2 were going to go to Tokyo. So everyone is all in, and obviously you choose a side because it's one or each, and you generally specialize in rowing on that one side. So you've got 6 athletes, and only one of you 6 is essentially going to make the seat for that end.
Right.
So it was brutal. And then beginning of 2020, I was selected with Lawrence Britton, who was a silver medalist from Rio in the same boat class. And we were decided the pair that's going to Tokyo. Through that, I had 2 stress fractures in my rib.
Gosh.
Like I had the craziest tendonitis in my forearm and hamstrings, but like you just kept quiet, push through it as much as you can, just put out the performances you need to. Otherwise, if you speak up and you spend time out the boat, someone else is going to come in and capitalize on that opportunity and take your place. So it's just get through it. Then we were on training camp in Lesotho, March 2020, and working towards the games, like big efforts there. And then overnight, they were like, listen, South African borders now closing because of COVID. You need to go home. And games were cancelled. There was no postponement at this stage. World Champs was cancelled. So we were just like, well, what happened? Pack up everything. They sent us home with a bike, a rowing machine, and some weights. And then we were just told, yeah, you just need to keep training on the program. What for? We didn't know. So that was a very, very dark time. Like I generally always have to work towards a goal. And it was crazy just to try and wake up and still push yourself, not knowing what it's for. Trying to comprehend, is this now another 4 years that I'm committing to go to the games? Yeah, it was crazy. And then even after they announced that they had just postponed it, to then just think about like, oh, I've still got these lingering like stress fractures and other injuries that I'd mentally like prepared myself. You just have 3 months left to just get this performance out, and then you can rest up and kind of recuperate and go, okay, you actually have 1 more year now. You have to rebook your seat in that pair, etc. Was a wild experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think like, I mean, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but it was quite interesting when you said like it was also the mental hurdle. Do you feel like,
Yeah.
you know, you already said earlier that it wasn't the result you wanted? Do you think that was maybe more the physical or the mental aspect, the reason for that? Or
Yeah, so I think we can get into that. But basically then what emerged after COVID was 2 very fast pairs. So I stayed with Lawrence throughout the training side, and then Sandro and John Smith. Sandro was new, also would have been a first-time Olympian, and John Smith was gold medalist in 2012. And essentially it was indistinguishable between myself and Lawrence and John and Sandro. It was like whoever on the day was feeling a bit better would be winning. And it was always kind of neck and neck in this rotation of who the top boat was. And now the head coach is sitting there going, we have to send just one of these 2 boats, like the other one, go home, no Olympics for you at some stage. So we made a big call. All the World Champs qualification stuff was done, and there's one final chance to qualify. They call it the Regatta of Death, because basically it's, in Lucerne in Switzerland, which is the most neutral course, and basically it's 1 or 2 spots per boat class, and that's your last chance to qualify. So if you don't get it there, that's the end of it. So we made the bold call just before to merge our 2 pairs together into the heavyweight 4 and try and qualify it like that, because we thought that would be our best shot at Tokyo. So luckily we managed to win that regatta. And it was wild. Then the very next week after that even got silver at the World Cup. So we were in a very good position going into Tokyo. Had a crazy good training camp up in Lesotho just before leaving for Toyama, where we would spend a month before going through to Tokyo and actually racing. And then, it was just tri-line fever. We were in such a good position. All we had to do was just maintain physiology, sharpen up on some of the technical aspects, and then go race. But, for whatever reason, as an athlete, I do think it's the coaching staff's responsibility to keep pulling on the reins, and then they need to make the mature decision of when to let it go and be like, all right, you go, because you're always rearing to push on and do too much. So you rely on them to program and make sure that you're not going to overdo it. Look at your metrics and make the mature decisions there. And I think it was just a matter of this is going really well, and coaching staff saying like, if we just did a little bit more, maybe there's like a 1% more chance that we could go from being favorites for silver to just betting down a gold medal. And then it was literally 3 weeks out from the games. We just overcooked it. And because rowing is it's an endurance sport, it's still very central in terms of how much strength and neurological recruitment you need to be able to produce. And when you fry your central nervous system, like it takes a long time to recover. So we were sitting 2 weeks out from racing, all in a room going, we toast here. Like, what do we do? Because it just seemed like the week before that, everyone was having their day where they were just a complete potato. And it wasn't so much of, I'm just a bit stiff from the gym the day before. Like I was completely done. So then, to try and salvage that was, the next point of call. But yeah, we just didn't get it right. And then lining up for the heat, took 2 strokes and I could just see the entire field just disappear from my peripheral vision. It was like, oh, we're in trouble here. So yeah, it was a brutal experience and a big learning item, but that's how sport goes. Like, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you take. So
I think it also like it's. I mean, for me, like I actually have goosebumps, like because I can only imagine, like I think Olympics in general is one of the most brutal, like qualifying cycles in general, because every athlete gets only a shot, potentially every 4 years to just qualify.
Yeah.
You qualify, and then you maybe sometimes have one, or depending how many heats you have, 2, 3 chances to actually prove yourself. And you trained, like for you guys it was even 5 years, like hard work, and like I can only imagine what must have went through your head after you crossed that finish line.
Yeah, it was wild, because also, when it's when you just can't recruit because your central nervous system is done, you don't feel that bad, but you just, there's no power going in. Jeez. And it's like, it was savage. But yeah, I guess that's the kind of paradox of Olympic sport, is that everyone goes in with this idea that they're going to be Olympic champion, but like there's only one that can be Olympic champion.
Right.
So there's 99% of you are going to be brutally disappointed.
Yeah, we spoke to another Olympian. I think did I say this at the beginning of the podcast? I think I did. Vicky from River,
Yeah.
And she was talking about her race, similar thing of like crossing the finish line, knowing you didn't win, thinking, oh, all this work, is it worth it?
Yeah.
And it's like everyone's depressed around you.
Yeah.
And she was like, it's so weird. It's like we're all at the Olympics. This is everyone's dream. And everybody's like depressed, except like one, maybe 3 people who got medals, you know?
But I feel like there is a difference between going into the Olympics as a favorite and going into the Olympics as like, okay, knowing you're not gonna most likely finish in the top 10. I think that makes it even harder.
Yeah.
But even then, I think just the nature of high performers, I think sometimes the winners cross the finish line and they're like, now what? It's like,
I've achieved.
I think a lot of people overestimate the longevity of that winning feeling.
Right.
And that novel, like, I guess dopamine rush kind of thing. I think it wears off very quickly, and then you're just kind of wondering what's next. And I think you're always conditioned to, for us, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we were lining up next to each other, like brutally, just trying to, like, all I cared about was just beating everyone next to me. And then even if you end up, going on to win, taking a step back from that, you're like, where's that all gone? What's next? Like, where's my Monday, Wednesday, Friday, where I always wake up with this feeling of I have to get the job done. And I think that's where a lot of athletes, struggle.
We were chatting to Dylan Nokia, and he was saying, you've got to love training, because if you don't, it's just, if you only love racing, like your life is going to suck.
Yeah.
And so I think like more people need to realize that it's far more about training than it is about the racing,
100%.
Yeah.
I think that's something I at least have in my favor, is that I just enjoy it. Like, I don't mind doing 3-4 hours of just nothing really, like sitting on a bike staring at some numbers. I think some people, it's torture, but like I don't mind it. Like, it's soothing, it's calming, and it's just something I've always known, literally from when I was 16, was just this always having a high degree of training as part of my lifestyle diet, if you call it that.
Do you also feel like then, because I mean, obviously you stepped away from rowing after the Olympics, was it just something you had to say, like, okay, like I worked so hard these past 5 years, I just need mentally and physically a break, and then you just luckily found HYROX, a sport that really like gives you the spark again? Or what was the time after the Olympics like?
So I still stayed active, but I didn't want to touch a rowing boat, touch a rowing machine. I just, the Tokyo scarred me fairly hard with that, along with the rest of the team. I think it was brutal. But I did Sky 100, had like ultra trail run. Got into powerlifting because I was like,
I
you know
stayed
what?
active.
Yeah.
My whole run.
It's like underselling it just a little bit.
Yeah.
Carl.
Yeah. So I was just kind of trying a whole bunch of different things. Eventually, I also settled on, you've done so much endurance and you were fairly strong as a rower, but the high volume of this aerobic work always got in the way of the ego stuff like bench press and whatnot. So that's why I ended up going to the powerlifting side, just be like, how strong can you get?
Yeah.
So that was cool. But then, very quickly it became kind of unfulfilling, sitting there 10 minutes rest between sets. You're like, okay, what's going on here? I much prefer the continuous work side.
Yeah, I had like a similar experience on a very smaller scale, I might add, recently is I've always been more of like a gym guy who runs a little bit. And then beginning of last year, I started running like way too much and ended up doing Cape Town marathons last year. And it was kind of like a, you can say 18 month like progression from like, I need to speed up my 5K time into like, okay, let's try and do a sub 4 marathon,
Inflation's quickly.
It inflated really quickly, and now I'm training for a half Ironman. So
there we go. Still
I started a podcast with my friend about endurance sports. It's just like one run club last year, February, and now we're here. But like after Cape Town Marathon, I was like, I just don't want to run another step. I'm over it, like so over it. Like I'm just going to go back to lifting weights and like running a 5K here and there.
Yeah.
And I did it for like 2 weeks. I'm like, I'm so bored because of the thing of like waiting in between sets. Like, I'm like, I know this is how you get stronger because this is how I got stronger in the past. It's like just like really boring weightlifting as heavy as you can, weight, and you like go again. But I was like, I need the pain to last like for an hour. I need to, and then I started this triathlon training, and it's so much fun because it's like, okay, I can like swim, and that's like painful for an hour, and I can bike and I can run as well. I'm like, all the endurance pain, and it's, I don't know, it's like some sort of dopamine rush. And I also know I'm like, I'm not gonna get bigger, I'm not gonna get stronger. And like it irks me a little bit, but also I'm like, it's just boring now. I don't know, it's just a little bit too boring. But I don't know, Giannis knows all about that. This guy's a freak of nature.
No, I mean, no, please. That's what also like the thing with the overcooking. Like I'm constantly injured because that's why I found it so fascinating when you said like your coaching team, you kind of relying on that, and I couldn't agree more because you have athletes. If you could, you would just go hard at every day. But speaking of the coaching stuff, and I mean, it's not just South Africa. It's unfortunately a lot of countries, especially like let's call rowing a smaller sport with all like means. How do you find it? Is it how supportive is the support for rowing on the nation basis, the federation? Do you feel like you guys got enough funding? You feel like there's still such a big need for it? Like, what was your feeling like being like? I mean, you went an Olympic rower, but probably you were not able to make a good living from it, I guess.
Yeah, I think in South Africa, a niche sport like rowing, it's never going to be as professionalized as we would like. Look at our like European counterparts from GB, Germany, like they actually, paid well enough to make it a profession.
Right.
Whereas a lot of us, you had to either coming out of university kind of still piggyback off your parents for quite a while. Or find part-time work to then self-fund and, keep a roof above your head. A lot of the sponsorship came down through the team level. And so it covered all the training camps, the flights to go race in Europe, equipment, etc. But in terms of feed yourself, get to training, have a roof over your head, that was, unfortunately on you. So the longevity of athletes in the program was obviously hindered by that. And otherwise you would basically compromise on quality of training if you're having to then go and have part-time work to try and, sustain yourself.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting. Dylan was saying, he was like, you can't, as a regular, say, amateur athlete, judge yourself off of professional standards because they're recovering way better than you because they're not at work frying their brain for 8 hours a day. And like your brain and your nervous system is like you said, so important to performing well as an athlete. It's harder to wake up early, go do your training session, work for 8 hours, and then do another training session and expect to perform like the other guy. And you're like, I'm doing the same program as him, but it's like, yeah, but you're not recovering like him,
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, like talk a little bit about recovery on like an Olympic level. How important is it? What's your approach? What do you think? Like if you were to tell someone this is how you recover as a professional athlete trying to optimize, like how would you do it?
I think the big ones are sleep and food. Without a doubt, if you're missing those, it doesn't matter what you do. You're never going to recover and adapt and absorb the training that you're doing at all. So prioritize that, number one. I know I suck at sleeping, even after like 30 years. I just, have these bouts of insomnia where I just lie there staring at the roof and, can't go to sleep. And that does affect training massively. Like you wake up and performance and motivation and like even getting warmed up takes such a long time. That's the foundation of that pyramid, like through and through. And then, I think a big thing is to not look at your training program in front of you. It doesn't matter where it comes from, and go, the goal is to complete everything. Because I think everybody looks at it and they go, okay, this is the program. I have to complete everything. That's the goal. Your program completion needs to be almost like a health metric. Like you look at HRV, all this kind of stuff, where the moment you start chasing to make that thing higher, it loses its value of being a metric. Because then you're going to make the wrong decisions to just try and complete this training program, and to make the mature decisions of, if I don't feel particularly great on an easy day, like back it off, like that you don't have to go and introduce more stimulus if you aren't absorbing it.
Right.
Because it seems obvious to me, but I know a lot of the time people don't understand that the training is not what makes you faster or better or stronger. It tells your body it's not good enough. So when you go and recover, your body goes, okay, that sucked. I need to be better. So next time it's not as sucky. And then you need to allow yourself and the time to recover and adapt.
Right.
So that's the important part. Adding more stimulus is not going to make you faster. Absorbing that stimulus and making the adaptation is the most important. That starts with food and sleep. You can start throwing in, compression stuff. I think that can work in terms of the marginal gains. I would steer away from the ice bath stuff. I think it has its place, but I think it's been shown that it blunts the adaptation made. Okay. So if you're doing your threshold session and then immediately going and getting in an ice bath to recover, yes, it's going to help you recover, but it's blunting the adaptation that you and that stimulus that your body has now received to go away and be like, okay, cool, I need to adapt to that. If you're doing something like, we would have a physiological set of testing where we would do a 2,000 meter test in the morning, a 5,000 meter test in the evening, and a 17K the next morning. We're not looking for adaptation from that. Like maybe a little bit, but we want to know we do the 2K as fast as possible. Then we need to come back and perform for the 5K. So yes, that's where ice baths, etc., can come into play after the 2K, because then it's helping you recover and get ready for the 5K. But I do think it blunts the adaptation in terms of training and making progress.
Right. Yeah. Oh, geez, that's interesting. We've been doing a lot of ice baths recently.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
really
contrast therapy. Yeah.
We might have to stop.
Yeah, I mean, I heard about that too, especially when it comes to like muscle building. But it also makes sense that it's just general adaptation that it would hinder it because of inflammation and stuff.
Yeah, so it's also something I've always wondered: like, does recovery and adaptation mean the same thing? Like, if you recover faster, does it mean you're adapting faster? And there are cases where that's actually decoupled a bit. Where
so if you're sore after a training session, maybe it's good because your body's like, I don't want to be sore tomorrow. Let me fix this, make me stronger. Versus, okay, now I've done an ice bath, I've done a sauna, compression boots. And your body's like, I'm okay. I'm actually like, they're going to give me the ice bath and the sauna and the compression boots. I don't actually need to change because if I do that again tomorrow, I'll be fine. You think it's like...
Yeah, so I think that inflammatory response as part of your training stimulus is something that your body needs to, absorb and adapt to. And if you blunt that with ice baths and stuff, I think then that does just reduce that adaptation that can take place.
I think that's cool, like what you said also, like it's more like, it's not like about, okay, don't necessarily do it at all, but like be smart about it. For example, like you said, maybe you just had a super like maybe you just had a, let's say, easy bike session and you feel like, oh, your legs are really cooked. Like you're playing with the idea, oh, going to the ice bath, should I? What's maybe the workout the next day? Oh, it's just the easy run. Cool, I don't necessarily need the ice bath, but oh, I have a really important threshold session tomorrow. Maybe I should have fresh legs for that because then I can absorb that stimulus even better. I think just more about probably the broader picture, like you said. Which is obviously a difficult skill to learn. I think it takes time, I guess.
Yeah, rather than kind of just, I guess blindly ice bathing and going, okay, cool. If I'm recovering faster, it means I'm also then adapting faster with it. Yeah.
Can you also talk more about the central nervous system? I'm just learning about this more recently.
Yeah.
How do you manage that, and how does that affect your training? Obviously, you know about central nervous system, but I'm just learning about it. Giannis knows more.
Yeah.
But talked a little bit about, is that something you're consciously managing through your training, or?
Not so much on the HYROX training because it's obviously not very high recruitment item. Like powerlifting, I think that's probably going to be the best example. Olympic weightlifting, you want to recruit as many like muscular fibers as possible in a very short period of time, and that's a neurological skill more so than kind of like how aerobic fitness is adapted, right? So that's why the strength training, you're actually just learning to bring in more muscle fibers at a single sort of short period of time. Rowing kind of fell on that end of the endurance spectrum where you are trying to recruit a lot in a short period of time. But HYROX and stuff falls a little bit more outside of that. But it is then very easy to overstimulate and like stimulates the word, your central nervous system with, the very intense sort of VO2 max work and your very, very heavy lifting. And your central nervous system needs a lot longer time to recover than, say, your peripheral stuff, which is like your muscle soreness and your actual muscles recovering, or your, the stimulus put on your heart, etc. So the HYROX stuff, I think about that a little bit less because the nature of the sport, that it's not so
intense.
The recruitment level is not necessarily all in one go. It's very distributed and different fiber types.
How's your running journey gone since you've got into it? Obviously, like HYROX is, I say to people, it's a running race with some obstacles in between. Realistically, how's that been? Obviously, like you got the cardio fitness, but now you're transferring it upper body to lower body. Have you learned to start enjoying it, or you like where is it for you at the moment?
Yeah, I think I went through a phase where like, I just need to run and get this thing right. And the trap I fell into was that your easy stuff when you're rowing, there's a technical element and you need this minimum force on that spoon face in the water in order to actually like connect the boat efficiently and actually get your power applied properly. And so the level of your sort of zone 2 and easy efforts needed to be a little bit higher to get that impulse and actually move the boat efficiently. And so I was very much used to kind of my easy work is at this level.
Right.
And then when I went to running, I would look for that same sort of RPE. And then it's just shin splints and a lot of like, my body just wasn't skeletal wise ready for that kind of load. And I tried to run, and it didn't improve, but I was dealing with a lot of niggles and kind of ups and downs there. Whereas now I'm going through a much bigger running phase, but my easy runs are just like a joke easy.
Right.
Just making sure that I'm getting exposure and, repetition of my running stride, thinking about certain technical aspects to develop efficiency. Obviously like specific capillary pathways and stuff like that. But in terms of the load that I'm putting on myself, I try and back off completely. Like the easy runs are like a joke pace.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, the more I got into it, the more I'm like trying to run my easy runs easy. Yeah. It is hard sometimes though. Like sometimes you'd be like, okay, if I miss a run, I should miss the easy run. And then you don't do that. And you come back and you're like, well, I missed my easy run now, so I better run this hard run really hard. And then you only done a like really hard run that week or a couple of interval sessions. And you don't get those easy runs in. But I think what I learned this last marathon block is you just need time on the legs. That's the biggest thing. It's like as much time as possible.
Yeah.
And most of it must be easy.
I feel like also the dangerous thing, what you said, like I can relate to that so much. It's like when you come from a sporting background,
Yeah.
but it's not running. Let's say it's been rowing for me, it's been basketball. You have this huge aerobic engine where you aerobically feel like you can go, but it makes you so dangerous because, like you said, your ligaments, your tendons, your bones, they're just not ready for all that impact. So you actually, your body breaks down before your aerobic system
100%.
breaks down.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if like 80% of your program is going to be like that really, really easy stuff, and the only thing you're fighting with is boredom and your ego. So like, you literally just like when I run, I hate the fact that I'm looking at paces that, you know, they're just really, really not even unimpressive. Like they are slow.
Yeah.
But I know that it's the right thing to do.
And you can't explain on Strava, hey guys, like just to let you know, I'm really way faster than this.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. We actually had this conversation as well. Like, actually, I think it was Vicky yesterday. She was like, she literally sold her watch. She's also doing the HYROX now in Cape Town. I think she actually podiumed.
She put him on her first or second race.
Yeah. And like, she also said like her like she because she also has, even if she doesn't want to, she's still gonna check her watch. So it's like, well, I just gonna actually start running for feel.
Yeah.
And I think like, that's actually so cool.
Yeah. And like easy is not just like, oh, I feel good. Like it's easy. Like I'm doing, it's like super underwhelming. Yeah.
No, it is a little bit like, I think it's what's interesting is when you get to the place where like easy runs feel like what walking felt like, you know. I think that's like, and then you kind of have to be in that zone where it's like a normal person's like walking effort is what you should be running at. And I sometimes I'll run with friends who haven't run as much as me, and we'll run together because it's an easy run and stuff. And they'll be like, how are you talking? I'm like, this is like, my heart rate is like 100 maybe, like, you know. That's crazy.
But I mean, we spoke also a lot about training now, but how does your training for HYROX look at the moment? Because I mean, you're preparing for Cape Town now. You already said like you have some goals for the rest of the year. So how's your training looking now leading up to Cape Town and also potentially leading up into the other races for the rest of the year?
So I generally, I have a blueprint, and I think HYROX is nice because it's kind of all year round that you need to be somewhat race ready. So I have a blueprint that's just follow week in, week out, and it's much of the same thing. Like, I'll rotate a threshold session. Instead of doing 5-6 minutes, it'll be 6 minutes, or 4-8 minutes, and like whatever it is doesn't necessarily matter. Maybe there's some sort of decision making around where I'm at or what my strengths and weaknesses are. Otherwise, it's much of the same thing, like day in, day out. Every single easy day, I start off with 2 hours on the bike, just ticking it over. It's I would like to keep it as consistently like that and just stack those kind of days all year round. Maybe choose a couple of A races that then I do taper off for. But luckily, again, because HYROX is not so like centrally demanding, the tapers don't need to happen from so far out. I think you can get away with like a 4-day taper and feel good on race day. Just flush a bit of the peripheral fatigue, like the muscles and stuff, and then unlock a little bit of the fitness that you've gained, and reduce that fatigue, and then just get straight back onto it. So just reducing the detraining as much as possible. Whereas like with the powerlifting, when I did my first meet, my coach was telling me, you know, you're doing your last heavy deadlift like 2.5 weeks out. And I'm like, bro, but like in 2.5 weeks, I'm not going to remember how to deadlift. But because of the central nervous system demand, it's just a completely different ball game. So I try to keep it the same all year round. I've had a wild year with my health. Eventually found that I had a mass in my sinus that had like completely blocked the frontal sinus. And then like all the nonsense that was like stuck up in there was just causing these like secondary central immune responses. So I felt like I was sick the whole time, like body aches, throat sore, like weakness. And I was like, there's no way I'm carrying a bacterial infection or a virus for like 6 to 8 weeks on end, and just like rinse and repeat literally a whole year from August last year.
So
and then had the surgery in April, and then
you need surgery for that.
Yeah, so they went up and they just like, yeah,
Cleared it
snipping and cutting, and got everything sorted and took the mass out. And like night and day again, and my health has been super stable. So for me, since then, it's just been about getting back to that good level of completing good volume of training, doing the fundamentals right, and then I just want to stay there for a year. And I think that's
the goal.
That's the goal for me. I think that's going to unlock the most performance for me. Yeah.
And you mentioned your coach in powerlifting. What level of powerlifting were you competing at?
No, not particularly high. I think it was a 10-month thing that I kind of committed to. I had a very good coach who unfortunately he passed away, but he was a national lifter, and just also super phenomenal. Just stuck to the basics, and like the progress was just crazy.
Wow.
So my first meet, I was in the sub 105 class. So I weighed in like 104 point something. And then I was trying to compete with Grant O'Donoghue, who was a South African 85 class lifter. So he was 20 kilograms lower than me. I was trying to punch the sort of same weights as him there. But yeah, that was where that was at.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And the other question I'd have was, do you think you're training as hard for HYROX in like the same intensity as you were for the Olympics? Do you feel like you can summon that level of like training intensity for HYROX as you did for the Olympics, or is it?
Yeah, I think
you say
it's
so?
I think it's a little bit more sustainable, just based on the fact that I'm not having to protect my seat in the boat every day. I think the nature of our effort is very different to having to reproduce, that 6-minute level performance in rowing. And then just the fact that I don't need to spend so much time doing the rowing modality and like incurring all these overuse injuries. I can distribute all my volume over rowing, skiing, running, biking, like whatever. It makes it a lot more sustainable. And then the same with the logistics. Like we mentioned earlier, I can just out my garage, open a gate, go for a run. Like everything's right there. I don't need this big body of water and boats to rig, etc. So to achieve the same level of volume, I'm basically doing the same amount of volume as we were doing on our training camps up in Lesotho, where we kind of try to make this bubble. So it's good.
How many sessions a week do you have, do you think?
I wouldn't go off sessions because they're kind of all broken down into like a 30-minute GPP and then into like an hour block of running or whatever it is. But I program for 26 hours a week.
Whoa.
But again, like I don't go out and start my week off trying to complete 26 hours. Like it's very dynamic based on how I'm feeling, prioritizing like my P1 sessions. Like I have priority 1, 2, 3, and 4. And like ego aside, I have no problem stripping out a couple of P4 sessions to make sure that all the priority ones are protected.
Right.
So I probably end up at the moment like 18 to 22 hours.
It's insane for HYROX.
So I'm looking at ideally, again, I don't want to chase it and make the wrong decisions. But if I can be punching 21 to 24 hours a week, playing like week in, week out, that's I think is the gold standard.
Wow. What is like an example of a P1 to 4 session like?
Yeah. So P1 is generally your like good quality work. So I'll isolate my threshold running in the morning. That would be something like, I don't know, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
A threshold pace, a minute rest, like it's pretty standard. And then immediately after that, some kind of race specific intensity work. I found that trying to dedicate a whole sort of threshold session to developing your HYROX race simulation stuff was just too much demand, skeletal wise in your week. So what I instead do is do my quality running and then dedicate, sort of 8 minutes of that threshold effort that I would normally put in running to some kind of specific work where I overload some variable that I would, face on race day, whether it's like a longer run into the ski or much greater strength demand in between like a 2-minute run. That's a classic one. I'll do a 2-minute run, then 12 heavy thrusters, 8 heavy deadlifts, 3 rounds of that, and then another 2-minute run. So then it's very specific, like practicing running under fatigue, reproducing force under fatigue. And that's where, biggest gains are made. then my P2 sessions are kind of a second work item in that day, more tempo focused, sort of zone 3, just like a 5,000 meter ski, and every 500 meters you're just doing a couple of burpees in between, and it's not an all-out effort. It's just about maintaining somewhat high intensity, still developing fitness without incurring too much fatigue. Then the P3 items are like GPP focused, and just, like whether it's EMOMs of wall balls and burpees, or a longer stint of some aerobic anchor effort, like a 5-minute ski, run, row, bike, whatever it is, and then sort of a 1-minute effort of one of the HYROX station items, or even like dumbbell snatches or something. So then that sort of builds that specific capacity. And then, P4, it is a bit deceiving because it's priority 4, but it's all that easy work.
Right.
Easy runs, easy bikes, easy rows. But I put it as P4, not because it's not important, but because it's the first thing I should strip away.
Right.
Because I add in as much as I can. Like, as I say, I program for 26 hours a week. I'd say 16 of those is those P4 sessions where it's literally just like 60 to 70% heart rates, just super easy work. But those are the first that need to go when recovery signals are off.
And are those like mainly like cycling or like easy runs and these sort of things?
Yeah. So again, like, you don't want to overdo the running for injuries. So I'm getting sort of between 60 and 80 Ks a week on
Which
the
is
running
still
side.
a lot, yeah.
Which is, it's a fair amount, yeah. But then you need, like, to add more volume, can't just keep on adding on running. And I found bike for me is the best way to do it. As much as I enjoy rowing and I'm very proficient at it, I can sit on the bike, at that easy effort. I can be on my phone. I use Claude Code now, the remote one. I can get my my software work done on that. And then, like, mentally, it's just a bit more like relieving and easier to get through. So that for me is like one of my main anchor modalities. Of my 4 easy days in a week, all of them start off with 2 hours on the bike.
I think that's also, sorry, I just want to say, like, I really actually like this P4, P3, P2, P1 approach. I think I will definitely like try to implement in my training, because it's, it sounds so stupid, but I do have an ego when it comes to training quite a lot. And I feel like that actually takes it away, because now, like, you still, if you make sure in your head, I still did the hard work.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to feel bad for like stripping maybe some less prior work. It's actually very cool.
100%. Yeah. So, and if you can always protect the P1 and then, P2, P3, I say P1 is kind of equivalent of, like, if your house is burning down, like, what 2 items would you grab before you run out? And it's like, if you could only do those in a week, like, what would you do? And then from there, priority decreases. Yeah.
And you said software work on Claude Code.
Yeah.
Are you software developer as well? You're not fully sponsored as a HYROX athlete yet, or are you? Or
Yeah. So I'm a burnt athlete.
Nice.
Yeah. So they sort me out a fair bit.
Nice.
But then again, like, I'm just used to it being a niche sport. Not Springbok level kind of funding.
Yeah.
So I've basically gone into sort of startup rescue, if you call it that.
Okay.
Where guys implement their V1s, and it's built, I call it ice cream sticks and super glue, like, prove the concept, but now they bottlenecks with scaling and all this other stuff. So then I kind of come in and help you either strip the whole thing out and rebuild from scratch, or enhance what you have there to actually help you scale the product.
Wow, cool. It's actually cool. But also, like, honestly, like you're saying, like with HYROX, like, it's quite a niche sport, but it's actually crazy, like, how big the sport got. Like, I know a lot of people like that actually do make a living as like professional HYROX athletes. So it's also like very promising, hopefully in the future, also for here South Africa. Yeah. And speaking of future, that is a very theoretical question, but I find it actually quite cool to think about. Okay, you've been to the Olympics as a rower. HYROX is trying to become an Olympic sport. If you now could have the chance to, let's say in a few years, go represent South Africa as a HYROX athlete in the Olympics, would you want to do it?
Yeah, I'm not so keen on the idea of HYROX being an Olympic sport.
Really?
Because again, like, for me, then where do you draw the line? What is an Olympic sport? I think it's already got to the point luckily they stripped out breakdancing. But I mean, like those sports being added, it burns you a little bit because I think it should be the fundamentals of like how fast, how heavy, how high, can you go for rather than sort of the subjective items. Like I know that kind of compromises even the gymnastics side a bit.
Sure.
It's like, so there's a bit of a gray area there, but
Yeah.
if you just keep adding in sports, then, it kind of loses its premise of finding, genetic freaks. Like that's what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like sometimes no matter how disciplined you are, how much you train, like someone is just better than you. And like we've got to find who the best in the world is at how fast they can run. We want to put them on a pedestal and be like, oh, that was crazy, like a spectacle to watch. So you have to draw the line somewhere with, otherwise, why not CrossFit? Why not any kind of other obstacle course racing? So for me, I think draw the line there. I don't think HYROX should be, but if it is put in and I'm still at that level by the time it is, of course I'll go.
Sick.
Or attempt to go. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's cool. I can't have CrossFit in the Olympics and they're doing handstand walls and roly-polies.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
But HYROX, I think that would be cool. They've got rugby and soccer in there already.
True, yeah. But I mean, speaking also about future, like what is your goal now for Cape Town HYROX and what is the goal for the rest of the year for you?
Yeah, so the new point system, I'm very much on the fringes of the Elite 15 side. So I think I had one race expire that pushed me from 18th to 23rd now. So Cape Town will claim back those points and put me, I think, 16th, depending on who moves around where. And then, I don't want to get in the trap of just desperately racing everywhere to get points and try and break in. I do want to, stack together these weeks that I've been missing the whole of last year, basically. But I still need to think about it and prioritize it. So I might go out to India to do a race there. I know there's one happening in Egypt, which is also very cool. Hamburg, London, like there's a lot planned in terms of the race calendar. But definitely working towards those elite majors and trying to sort of break in there on the singles side. And then I paired up with Dylan. Unfortunately, he didn't have his elite license for the Cape Town race we won, so we missed out on the points there. But hopefully we can race Cape Town, get some more points towards that, and then hopefully break into the elite doubles with him there too.
Amazing.
So yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's been so great chatting to you, getting on, listening to all your stories and your wisdom. If people want to follow you on Instagram or anything, what's your socials? Tag it. We'll put it in the description as well.
Yeah.
And just tell the camera over there.
Yeah, perfect. Just Kyle.Schoonbee. Instagram's the only relevant one. So can go there.
Perfect.
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks so much and good luck for Cape Town HYROX. Best of luck for that. I'm
we'll need
very
it.
excited to follow your journey this year.
Yeah, thanks guys. Awesome
cool.
to be here.
Awesome. And thanks guys for tuning in for another episode of AFCO Podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe. Please leave us a rating if you listen to Spotify, Apple Podcast. It would really, really help us and mean a lot. So catch you next week.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.